So I've seen some articles and some Twitter chatter and all this good kind of stuff, right? That say, well, because the Atlanta Falcons are such a run heavy team that maybe we could look at, there's some free agent high caliber running backs on the marketplace. Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, guys that are on the marketplace right now. Well, why do you think that some of those guys are on the marketplace? Why do you think that those guys, you don't think that Ezekiel Elliott could help the Cowboys out? You don't think a Derrick Henry could help the Tennessee Titans out? Why are those guys on the scrap heap, for lack of a better term of saying it? Because they're aging running backs in a position that ages out very quickly, and they cost you a whole lot of money. Ezekiel Elliott is basically a cap hit kind of casualty, right? You've got a Pollard, and he averages 5 yards a carry, and they feel like they can run with him. Yeah, is Ezekiel Elliott, a good player? But when it comes to these things with the Atlanta Falcons, you have to say no to aging running backs. You can't afford to get money tied. We did that a few years ago here, right? Well, maybe Todd Gurley's got something left in the tank, and maybe he can be a difference. And then come second half of the year, it was like that. Yeah, had some good moments in the first half of the year. And then Father Time started catching up, and, he just wasn't the same player down the stretch. So when it comes to our philosophy about running backs, I am perfectly fine with letting Ezekiel Elliott and Derrick Henry and those guys pass you by, especially Derrick Henry at 29 years old. Now, you may not listen. In the grand scheme of life, that isn't old at all. In NFL terms, that's like having 40 years in the league, especially when you play running back. So it's not that those guys can't do some things or whatever like that, but to invest any real dollars in those guys doesn't make a lot of sense. This team has a really nice running back that they drafted in the 5th round, and certainly you look at a guy, you look at a guy in Tyler Allgeier that can do, and I'm not saying he's the same player. We talked about this before. I'm not saying he's the same player as a Michael Turner, but he can do some of the things that Michael Turner did. And he doesn't have a lot of tread worn off the tire. He's not got thousands of carries in the league. He doesn't have that beat up factor. And then you mix that up with a Cordero Patterson, who's another guy that doesn't have a real beat up factor, right? Even Cordero Patterson doesn't have a lot of tread worn off that tire. He's a relatively fresh kind of guy. I'm okay with all that. And yeah, if you draft a rookie running back, again, middle rounds or whatever like that, fine, stick him in. If you want Caleb Huntley back, fine, stick him in. But running back is like my least concerning position. That's my position of least concern when you talk about investing dollars and signing guys who probably, again, the Ezekiel Elliott's and the Derrick Henrys, those guys have a lot of tread worn off the tire. You're not running on slicks, but you're pretty close to it. You're pretty close to running on slicks. And again, a Zeke Elliott and a Derrick Henry is a lot of name value that I don't think really helps you to win a lot more ball games. That I don't think either of those guys, bringing them in here, transform your franchise into, okay, this is the tipping point where listen, I'll say it like this. I'll take Justin Houston or Ngakoue before I would take Derrick Henry or Ezekiel Elliott. And those guys are older. And Ngakoue's not super old. He's like 27 years old. He's the same age as Elliott. But I'll even take Justin Houston at 34, 35. I'll take Melvin Ingram at 34, 35 years old before I would take an aging running back. Because if there's one skill set that I need more than anything, it's sacking the quarterback. And I don't care how many minutes, how many plays, what percentage of plays that those guys play. If I can sack the quarterback, that's a skill that I desperately need. I don't need to pay for Ezekiel Elliott and for Derrick Henry for things they've done in the past, right? I mean, Ezekiel Elliott doesn't look like a guy who's about to lead the league anytime soon. Now, again, somebody will probably pick those guys up, and they may help a team win a few ball games and different things like that. But for what this franchise does and where we're at that position, I just want the Falcons to say no to all of these aging running backs. I've got a really good young player in Tyler Allgeier. I've got a guy that's a veteran in Cordero Patterson that doesn't have a tremendous amount of beat-up factor and everything with it. And whether or not I bring Caleb Huntley back, whether or not I, draft a guy, whatever. Okay, now at that point, we're talking about a third running back, all right? If this offensive line can replicate some of the things that it did last year in the run game, I can make Tyler Allgeier into a 12 or 1,300-yard running back. I can make Cordero Patterson a 500 or 600-yard running back. And then whatever option C is at that point, I can make them a 300-yard running back. And I'll be one of the top teams in the league running the football. And our philosophy will be to just mash people forward. But I don't want these aging running backs. Too much tread worn off the tire, and you're paying for all of the things, all of those Pro Bowl seasons, first team All-Pro season. You're paying for all of that stuff that they did in the past, not for what future performance is going to dictate. All right, let's talk about our friends over at Built Bar. Listen, March Madness is here, and we got the March Madness bracket for Built Bars here, where if you go to builtmarchmadness.com, you can vote for your favorite bar or your favorite puff, right? So listen, we're going to give 50 lucky Locked On listeners a chance to win a free box of Built Bars when you go to builtmarchmadness.com. So vote for your favorite bar or puff, and you're going to be entered into a drawing to get a potentially 50 lucky winners that will win a box of Built Bar just by listening to the podcast here. And we're also giving one lucky Locked On listener a 12-month subscription to have Built bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. So listen, you got to try Built. Built's the best protein bar ever. They're amazing. Again, whether you want the marshmallow puffs, the protein-infused marshmallow puffs, whether you want your traditional protein bars, you can have the best of both worlds. But go to builtmarchmadness.com to vote for your favorite and enter to win either a box of Built bars with 50 lucky winners for that, or a 12-month subscription. Head to built.com today.